Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out an early alpha version of a game called The Explorer by developer Adam Rogers. This is a first-person exploration game. I think, well, maybe game. It's going to be a little bit on the generous side in this case. Probably another one of those more of an experience style things where we're just going to be wandering around, seeing the sights, and taking in what there is to see. Like I said, this is an early version of the experience and shouldn't be judged too harshly as of yet. This is really, I think even when it's finished, supposed to be very much a contemplative, introspective type of experience where you just wander around, enjoy the sights and sounds of the environment, and bring to it what you will bring yourself. So in a lot of ways, this is something that's going to be a little bit different for each person, and I know probably not for everybody necessarily, but I have to say graphically it's quite stunning. Even in the state it's in right now, I think largely in part to the fact that it is a UDK game or an Unreal Development Kit game. The engine that's powering it is pretty strong and has some pretty nice details to it, as you'll see. I mean, we've got touches like the god rays coming from the sun here. You can see it better when there's the branches in the way. We've got some, well, okay-looking water shaders. I have to say, this has always been a point of contention with me when it comes to the Unreal graphics engine. I think it's always had some trouble doing like motion in waterfalls and such. I think probably it would be helped to have some like, you know, water spray effects going on in the air around it, and of course the water on the baseline there, it needs its the tiling on the texture to be tuned up a little bit so it's a bit larger. Is there actually a texture underneath the water, or what are we looking at here? Because water's supposed to be transparent, unless it's just pulling a reflection from the space around it. Whoa, what's going on there? Oh, I guess I'm seeing my own hands or something. Or some details of mine. Anyway, when you first boot this up, you'll notice this is still, you know, being very early in development. You're still going to be dealing with the UDK interface. So it sort of looks like you're about to launch into a deathmatch round in Unreal Tournament 2004, 2K, or whatever. I forgot, what are we on now? Unreal Tournament 3? I don't even remember. I have all of them, but I haven't played it in quite a while. But I think that's one thing that would definitely be swapped out for a more proper UI later on. It's a bit off-putting, and it always sort of struck me as strange that the developers, or Epic Games, when they made the UDK setup the way they did, they geared it in such a way as to basically just mimic the exact approach that their actual Unreal Tournament games used as their UI. Like, why not make it a little bit more general, right? Because this is pretty far away from a deathmatch experience, I have to say, so I don't know, it just seems strange to me that they would hold that to the same level in a way, you know? Whatever. Anyway, back to the game at hand. We've got some lovely lighting effects here. We've wandered away from the first area, and there are a few little cubby holes that we can explore off to the side. And this is something that I really enjoy doing, just wandering around in 3D spaces like this. I think it really lets you just take a minute to think about what's going on, just sort of enjoy what you might be able to find, perhaps run into a secret or two. I don't know if that stuff is always necessarily something that runs through the mind of someone who's making a map like this, but I definitely find it to be extremely fun when you happen upon something that might not be obvious, or maybe is even a little bit counterintuitive to find as you're wandering around the space. And you know, there's some pretty nice details here. I mean, I'm not sure if the developer went and made all of these models and all of these textures, but if they did, bravo, they look lovely, very high-res stuff. You'll notice all of these bricks sitting individually, things like these, the tree roots that spread out. All of this stuff is modeled, they're not just textures sitting on the ground. We've got some lovely leaves here. Actually, that looks quite nice. Not that I've ever had an issue with these god rays, they almost always do look quite nice, but still. Some of the sizes of things like these flowers seem a little disproportionately large, but then it makes me start to wonder, is there perhaps a theme or a motif going on here that I'm not picking up on? And I think if there is, maybe a little bit of like a high medieval fantasy style thing. It feels like there's a little bit of like a slight German influence from some of the architecture. I'm not sure what this statue is supposed to be. It reminds me a little bit of Atlas, I suppose, only instead of holding the world on his back, I don't know, some sort of a gyroscopic-looking spherical form, maybe representative of science or something. I don't know, could be an atom. And then there's some sort of strange tropical foliage. I mean, these trees to me, at least, well, this one anyway, looks a little bit more tropical than that one. So I'm not sure if the theme is intentionally at odds, or if it even is. Maybe I'm just the one that's making the mistake here. But it sort of tells a story in a strange way. And it's just unfortunate there's not more to see at this stage, because it's something that I would definitely like to take the time to look around and see what I can discover and perhaps start to piece together even more of this narrative. I really do appreciate little details, like as you go up these stairs, you'll notice the textures aren't all aligned in the same way. There's even little details like, well, I can't duck down to show you particularly well, but there are actually little notches and such cut out of the edges of the stairs. These are things that, not terribly hard to do, but a lot of people don't do them. So I definitely want to give my props to the developer for taking the time to do that. This path through the rocks here, though, a little strange. I'm not sure if this is maybe still an area that's still being developed or still being worked on, but this cave seems a little bit constrictive compared to the rest of the space, and maybe a little bit less detailed as well. I mean, if you look at something like this, where this pathway has all of these uneven bricks, I know that's a thing that takes a few moments. There's a thing called a brush in UDK, and what you have to do is actually rotate it around if you have a specific setup the way you have it. So see, there's the one that's sort of at a slight angle, and then directly next to it, there's another one that's in the opposite direction. So you'd have to like hold control and then spin it around to the other direction. And I'm assuming probably all of these are going to be pitched roughly the same. Maybe the developer has 2 or 3 brushes that are, you know, similar in nature, and he's just going ahead and tiling those. But still, that takes time, and it's something that you don't see a whole lot of people do. You might even want to go so far as to cut out some of the spaces where the bricks might have been, or put a few that are off to the side and look a little bit discarded, toss them on top of the other tiles. Little details like that definitely make things very interesting, and are really, you know, nice little focal points that pull you into the environment a lot better. Things like this hanging foliage coming off of this archway, and whoa, got a little stuck there on the side of that, whatever that is, that log, I suppose. This the archway itself actually is another thing that makes me really wonder about the theme or the motif here. Seems a little inconsistent. Over here we've got what looks to be maybe some Mayan or Aztec runes, which seems maybe possibly at odds with the Atlas figure that we saw in the other area. It kind of works though in a way. I'm not really sure. I mean, maybe I don't have quite as robust an art history background to be able to say how strange these things are to have together, but they definitely don't quite look perfect, but in a way, I kind of just want to embrace the dissonance there. And looking off in the distance, of course, we see this castle town off nearing on the horizon, and it's a place that I wish we could have actually gone to explore, but it appears that we're not going to. We unfortunately granted that. Also should note the music, quite pretty. We've got this piano track going along, and then there also seems to be a little bit of like a fiddle or a violin tune that keeps jumping in and out, and that's the one thing that I think is a little strange. I feel like those two tunes don't necessarily go together perfectly well. One or the other probably would be correct, but I feel like they clash a little bit. And maybe it would even be fine to just have the violin thing playing just when you're in a certain space, you know, ambiently just walking by. For example, it could be coming from that house or something like that. Of course, there are details too, like this ambient fog, which I think is quite a nice thing to walk into. Definitely gives everything this hazy appearance to it. But there are also some things that are probably still a little bit unfinished. I noticed in a preliminary walkabout, just I was getting my sound levels, I noticed you could actually see over the edge of that wall, and the stuff on the other side is not really textured out. Being that this is an alpha right now, is still very early on, but you know, it's something that I would like to see, you know, little details like that. If you're going to have this barrel that's leaning sort of sideways, you'll probably expect people to jump up on it, and if you jump up on it, you'll notice you could just see over the wall here, and there is no floor. Also kind of makes me wonder about the storyline behind why there are like these toxic-looking barrels just sort of stacked up in certain spaces. Smacks quite a bit of like, this is a model that was in the Unreal kit and maybe wanted to use it because it seemed right there, but I don't know, it seems kind of, again, a little bit at odds with the motif that's going on. Other than that, which is fairly rustic, that's definitely a strong hit of like industrial, which I don't know blends. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. But also notice we can actually walk through this waterfall because, you know, this is sort of an adventure game trope, right? Anytime you see a waterfall, you're probably going to try and wander through it. And, you know, maybe we're all indoctrinated from playing too much Zelda or something. But in this case, this is not a place that we're necessarily supposed to be, and we can actually go pretty far into there. I was kind of hoping there'd be a cave or something, but nope. And I think if I wedge myself just right in here, I might actually be able to escape out to the other side. I can, in fact. and we can walk through the landscape. There is no more collision out in these parts. And I'm starting to wonder, maybe we can actually just wander over to the other end. Oh, let's see what's textured on the other side here. It looks like the back of the building is. And I'm pretty sure this same mesh is probably used a bunch of times over there as sort of like a stamp. Is it a lower fidelity version? I think it is actually a lower fidelity version to cut down on the poly count, because it looks like there is some depth to those wooden panels on the side on that one edge, and then over there it looks like they're actually totally flat. So props if that is the case. Oh man, I'm a robot. I had no idea I was a robot. Well, that totally changes everything. That's probably just not considered yet, and probably just a leftover thing from the Unreal kit, but it sort of makes you wonder, right? I guess that explains why our hands look like that. At one point I decided, like, maybe there are some other maps or something we could see, or another area that's still being worked on. Doesn't appear to be the case, but just for the sake of argument, I guess we could just pop back out to the main menu here if we go to exit. So yeah, this is what you're greeted with when you start up the game, and again, this is just due to it being still in alpha. I'm sure this will eventually be replaced with an actual, more proper UI that will take you directly to the game. Also, a little strange, and this is a thing that I've always found sort of strange about the UDK in general. Whenever you install one of the UDK games, it buries the executable file in like 3 or 4 folders deep worth of stuff, so you need to know which folders to look through, and you need to end up in like the Win32 executable bin, whatever. I don't remember the path exactly. But if you install it and you don't make a shortcut or anything, then you gotta go digging in there to find it. I don't know why they couldn't have just put a shortcut to the executable file in the main root of the installation folder. It seems kind of like an obvious move to me, but what do I know? I don't know, I'm just some guy. I'm not Cliff Blazinski or anything, or Cliffy B, whatever we're calling him these days. Not that I don't even think he's necessarily had a hand in Epic stuff for a while now, or I don't know, maybe he has. I think he was working on Bulletstorm last, but I don't know if that was still the same people. Anyway, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent here. If you want to go check out the Explorer, it is totally free to do so. Link is going to be in the description. It's about a 330 meg download, so hopefully you don't have any issues with downloading reasonably large files, but that's just due to the high-resolution textures in the UDK. I think pretty much any game you get that's a UDK game is going to have a pretty big installation size to it. So go ahead and try it out, see if there's any comments that you'd like to bring into the discussion. I'm curious to know what you guys think about these sort of exploratory, contemplative games where there's not really any overt goals. I mean, games like Proteus that I've played in the past, they seem to have a bit of a mixed reception a lot of the time. And also, by the way, if you go to Instant Action, this is how you launch the game. It looks like you're launching DM the Explorer Alpha. You have to title your maps DM-. I do have some experience with making maps for Unreal. This is why I know a little bit of this stuff from my background. And then you go to Start Game. And then you see the actual UI from Unreal where it's got like your ammo and health and stuff, which is just strange. But at the beginning, you can actually go flying around the environment if you choose, so that kind of takes a little bit of the mystery about flying around, doesn't it? Or about exploring. So like, oh, look at this little checkerboard thing behind here. We can go ahead and find some of the quirks of the environment I might have never run into. I wonder why it's like that. Is there actually a floor to this in some way? Let's look to the other side of here. Is this buried in the cave? Oh, I actually can't really climb through some of these walls, even though I thought you go into no-clip mode when you're flying around the environment like this. Maybe not. Huh. Doesn't seem to be a reason for that. Maybe there's something that's coming eventually that will have a checkerboard floor. And then what's on the other side of the garden? Quick way you can find secrets, right? If there's anything a little bit out of the norm when it comes to the geometry, you'll be able to find that pretty fast. It is always cool to see, though, outside of the borders of things. Like how you see this is just a flat plane that was not clipped off, textures on a line and all that. Not that I'm faulting the developer for this. Is not supposed to be seen anyway. But it is just sort of interesting. And, there's some cool, ideas in the fact that, like, they don't put polygons and textures on the other side of these, so it's really a one-way thing. For anyone who's not necessarily too interested in game design, I always think it's kind of cool to see outside of the box on these sorts of little expeditions. Oh, what's over here? Little landing strip of water textures. Probably an experimental texturing area. I was trying out to get a nice look for the top of the waterfall ground spot, and then there's a plane over here that I'm going to assume is probably where building was going to take place, and then we'll get later on attached to things. So yeah, I guess with that we will wrap up the episode. Thank you everybody for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this little look into what could be a pretty freaking cool little exploration game. I mean, again, I know this is probably not for everyone, but I think this is a thing that I definitely have been hoping for more games of, and especially with this nice vibe to it. You know, the ambience is there. It's got some lovely sound to it. Everything seems like it's coming together, just needs to be more of it. And if the developer wanted to put in a few little objectives, you know, potentially finding some secrets could be a lot of fun. And exploring around this castle town and who knows what else, I would be super into that. This actually looks a lot like some of the castle environments from Dark Souls, which also totally into, if you didn't know already. But yep, that is going to do it. Link's going to be in the description as well as my other social media links. Make sure you come back again tomorrow. New episodes are every single day. Be sure to chime in with your comments in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you think about these style of games, like I said earlier. And I will catch you again tomorrow. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a lovely night.